Joining us right now, folks, from somewhere in this universe, Mike from around the world. Mike, how you doing tonight?
Pastor Paul, God bless you. I'm doing okay tonight.
All right, Mike. Mike, I've covered about several different things here, getting ready for you. But I titled this show "Devastation" because I see a lot of it going on. You probably heard. I don't know if you did hear, but my cousin was murdered.
Oh, I'm sorry to hear that.
On the train. You know that train when the guy went through and killed 4 people, shot them in the head execution style?
Yes.
One was my first cousin.
I'm sorry to hear that.
Yeah, and it just shows you our family's in shock. She was such a sweet, wonderful young, she was 64 years old, a wonderful, I went to high school with her. She lived right in the same town with us. Our families got together all the time. And she's the last person on earth that needed to have this happen to her. There's just no way, but there's evil out there, Mike. And I want to ask you before we get into some of this stuff. We had the shooting at the school. We had the shooting that Pastor Greg Locke, who's one of our speakers in the webinar, whose home was shot 30 to 40 times. They just mowed it down trying to kill him. But thank God he didn't get hit. But Mike, tonight I want to start with this. Twice you said 70,000 people are going to die. I actually went and looked to see if there's anything out there, and there's 70,000 Japanese people are going to die this year, they said, because they're just old. Okay, that is devastating, but that's not what you're talking about, I'm sure. Can you give us any idea what to look for? I mean, this 70,000 people, I've gotten so many emails. I've heard.
First of all,
tell us about it.
We have minimal security for nuclear power plants around the world.
Okay.
Right?
Yep.
We're going to have a few scares, but ultimately, sooner than later, it will cause probably that, if not more. We just don't have ample security around these. People have forgotten about how volatile these power plants can be. And we're going to, some countries are going to pay a price for that.
Well, you know that the Iranian plant, the Zapora, I can't say the whole word, but this thing here is crippled. And, could this be this type of thing? Are you saying vandalism or war or just breakdown? What do you think?
I think it'll be terrorism.
Okay.
It'll be terrorism. There are too many facilities in a compromised position, right? You got to remember, these guys are probing constantly, electronically. Now they're going through, children's devices to get to infrastructure. All they have to do is cut down the cooling systems. That's it. That's all they have to do. And then it will go into meltdown. They have physical lockouts. And if they get a hold of those, you won't be able to re-engage some of that antiquated equipment. Generators, backup generators, are most of them need maintenance. I would give them probably about a 50%, 50 to 60% readiness rating as far as maintenance goes. That's way below standard, right? Way below standard. And so we have a big problem. We know that terrorism is increasing worldwide. We know that since Hamas attacked Israel, the Middle East has taken a direct stance against Israel.
Right.
We know that even right now, tonight, we know that Iranian troops and proxy troops are ready. They're ready to roll for the first time in history.
Really?
They're ready to roll on a coordinated type of assault. And if Hezbollah all by itself, Hezbollah in Lebanon, were to confront Israel full on, there would be no winners. There'd be no winners.
So you're saying that Hezbollah and Iran both are ready to roll. We apparently our surveillance can see this. Satellites can see the assets moving.
Yeah, you can see that, but also they have, of course, the U.S. is nosy. We can hear everything, and Iran has all their proxies ready. Not some, all. And the sentiment now is backed up by the world. If Hezbollah were to strike Israel right now, there wouldn't be a lot of feedback from the world, right? There wouldn't be. And they're ready to go. They have the equipment. They have the projectiles. They've been flying drones over Israel, taking surveillance pictures of Iron Dome, Israel's infrastructure. They've been doing this every day. Now, if a drone can take surveillance pictures of Israel all over the land of Israel, then Iron Dome did not detect it. Okay, and they keep every single day. They warn Israel, we can see you, we can see what you have, what you're doing. And so tonight, for the first time in history, all the proxies are ready. They're ready, and they're also antsy, which means they are, you have a younger generation in Iran. I'm sure they popularized that in media. The younger generation is kind of against hostilities, right? But you have the greater majority of those who are ready to engage in combat. They are ready to go right now. And they don't want to wait. See, this is becoming quite tenuous. They don't want to wait. And I'd remind everybody, Israel has not destroyed Hamas.
Right. They haven't. No.
Hamas is the insignificant group of Iranian proxies. So if Hezbollah engage them fully, they have a problem. The world will not allow Israel to fully do what they need to do, because strategically you would have to destroy at least 3/4 of the populace to get rid of Hamas. Because you cannot tell who Hamas is. A uniform does not designate, if somebody is Hamas or not.
Right.
They could be anybody from the ages of, 12 and up. So you just don't know. They can never rid the land of Hamas, who, by the way, is isn't that's an old name for
violence.
The Philistines, isn't it?
Yeah, the Philistines is Palestinians are really from the
Palestinian
old
Philistines, and
right.
Hamas is violent, yes, but also Hamas is an Arabic word for, isn't that an Arabic word for Philistine or something like that? Anyway, you have that group that's persistent in that area. Now, they're going to be done away with over time, but it will consume quite a bit of the Middle East to get this done.
Okay. So this is a great point you're bringing up. And so now I saw Benjamin Netanyahu this morning on Fox News early this morning. He was interviewed and he said, look, we got to stop Hamas. And he goes, here's the deal. The Philadelphia corridor, which is the strip right there along the border of Gaza and Egypt. That is the area that all of the weapons, all of the rocket launchers and rockets and all the weapons flows through Egypt underground to Hamas. I think what Israel's saying is, I know this, Netanyahu said, we have to completely control the Philadelphia corridor. And that shuts down Hamas. In other words, as you said, you don't know how many Hamas soldiers are still in that 1.8 million people.
That's right.
But if you can shut down the pipeline,
that's right.
You've got them.
You have to control the traffic. That's right.
And is it funny that Egypt's president would then get on a plane and go to Turkey, first time in 12 years, to rebuild a relationship? What's going on there? I thought Turkey was NATO.
We have an explosive situation in the Middle East, and tonight it seems the dynamic shifted big time tonight, and so it's from Israel with the Iranian forces, and but no one should underestimate the Iranian forces. Hezbollah right now can set Israel on fire, literally. The whole place can be set on fire.
What?
Right now, they can do that. They have the capacity.
Hezbollah down now. Hezbollah is the southern Lebanon. Southern Lebanon.
That's right. We're talking about Lebanon.
Okay.
That's right.
Go ahead.
They have that capacity right now to set Israel on fire. And Benjamin Netanyahu, he understands that they're not going to stop with Hamas. Today, or yesterday to the world, Iran admitted that they have been directly issuing orders to all their proxies, that they have been weaponizing their proxies. They just came out with that yesterday to the world. So they don't care. And that's this is a very different time, because in order for them to come out and say that, they have already tabulated the cost or whatever penalties will come back their way. But the world is not behind Israel. Nobody should make that mistake. The world is not with Israel. So if the world was with Israel, they would have controlled all entry aspects of Israel already. But the world will not let them.
No, you're right.
They won't let them.
There you see in the picture, you see Egypt's president right there, al-Sisi, and there's Erdogan, the president of Turkey. Sisi went to Egypt. Sisi of Egypt went to Turkey. First time in 12 years. These guys are sitting down for 2 days, strategically talking about how to deal with Israel, and Gaza. Now, these guys each have nukes. These are big players. This isn't so. I mean, they're bigger than Iran. If you really want to talk about power, Iran has this total hatred for Israel. But these guys, I mean, especially Erdogan right here, Erdogan of Turkey, he thinks he's the caliphate. He wants to, bring about the 12th Imam, and the guy in Egypt. He's been laying dormant. I mean, Egypt's been laying really dormant, and they've been actually 45 years. They've been at peace with Israel, but this is about to change, isn't it, Mike? What's going on here?
Yeah, we have a shift, and it's shifting quickly. So talk of large scale wars is happening right before. In fact, tonight I believe that the sentiment is we have a few emergency meetings about to take place. And I believe that Egypt has to consult with Turkey so they can, they have to lay out communication borders, command borders, all these different things between fighting forces. Because now the Middle Eastern discussion is not only just this economic thing anymore, right? They're talking about fighting. They're talking about, lines of allies, this, that, and the other. And so we know something is about to break out. Right. That's why we have some of the most powerful assets that the U.S. has there in the Middle East. And so,
is that the reason you feel? Is this the reason you feel that something's about to break in a big way? Are you thinking Hezbollah's the next one to make a major move at Israel, or what do you? Who's the next one that's going to make a run at Israel? Hamas is pretty well crippled.
Personally, I believe this. I believe they're going to probe it first. Now, probe is when they go in there posturing as though they're going to take it, right?
Okay.
Posturing will cause feedback. They're going to carefully measure that feedback. And when they go back in for a second time, they're going in with about 5 or 6 different armies. It's not going to be just Iran. It's going to be 5 or 6 different armies that will go in there. Yeah. Because this Israel right now to the world, not to me, to the world, but Israel is severely destabilizing the Middle East. Right, nobody can move forward with their plans. And most plans are on hold because if a war breaks out, you're looking at a different economic dynamic, and they have to know what they have to face. And so they are, everything is changing. It's going to become apparent with. I wish that American politicians would actually stop politicizing everything and begin to tell people, hey, we have some situations around the world that we have to, get serious about. And because if the Americans are not warned, they're going to keep walking around like, every day is just another day, and they're going to be caught by surprise at the wrong time.
Well, don't you feel that the current administration doesn't really have Israel they don't really have Israel's back, and this is partly why Israel is so vulnerable right now. They're trusting God, and they're going to do what they got to do, but Netanyahu's under severe pressure. So the politicians, look, Kamala Harris, first of all, President Biden is nowhere to be found. I mean, he's hanging on the beach, he's lost. And you got Harris, who just went to Philadelphia, and she's going to hide for 5 days and try to be prepared to deal with Trump. There's nobody watching the store, Mike. Who's watching the store?
Well, I think historically, Democrats, when Democrats are in power, historically, there are always lots of policies and lots of talk and all that stuff, right? When Republicans are in power, normally they have to deal with the fallout of too many failed talks
right
around the table. When you're talking to militant people like Iran, when you're discussing issues with people like Turkey and things like that, you can't reason with the heathens. You can't do that, right? So you really have to. There are times where you have to use force, right? You have to have that show of force, or they will not hear a word you have to say. And it's one of those situations where right now we've talked so much that we have recanted every single declaration we've made. They've stepped over every single red line we ever had, right?
Yeah.
And they think by negotiation everything can be solved. Well, if that were the case, the police would need guns if that were the case, right?
Right.
But we know the state of violence in the world. And if you look at any country's demographic of violence, then apply that to the world, and you're going to see how this third world war is set up. You're going to see it go totally out of control, because if there's no policing force, in fact, right now, even among believers, if it were not against the law to go into a bank and get money, I can almost guarantee you there'd be some believers out there say, I really need that. So temptation exists where laws do not. Right? Enforceable laws. Temptation does exist. It is the penalty. It's the penalty when somebody gets caught that dissuades them from doing those things. Right? Those repercussions. If there are no repercussions, then what are you doing? We were given the Ten Commandments to remind us of our sin.
That's right.
So, the Democrats, historically, again, they talk about everything. They don't really do anything. They talk. They hope for discussions that somehow everybody's at the same mental level they are, right? That they can, bedazzle people around the table. That is not working in the time we're living in, right? It's just not working.
No.
And it's getting worse. The situation is worse.
Are they clueless to the danger, Mike? Are they clueless to danger, or are they just drunk on power?
No, they're stubborn.
Okay.
It's kind of like these. It's kind of like a sorority, right? If you're part of a sorority in college, you are bound by the ethics of that sorority, no matter what, right? You're not going to defile the ethics of that sorority. And the reason why is because you belong to a group, you become loyal to the group and to the values and ideologies of that group. And so you don't want to betray it. Essentially, that's what the Democrats, that's what they do. And they're loyal to their own ideology they set up, even with but it's getting worse. It's the wrong time for that. This is the wrong time, like the Ukraine. The Ukraine could potentially go nuclear at any given moment.
Okay. Well, wait a minute. When you say nuclear, Ukraine don't have nuclear weapons, do they?
No, Russia does.
So I know, but so you're saying Ukraine goes nuclear. You're saying Russia could at any time drop a tactical nuke. And is that the 70,000 lost lives?
No, that still wouldn't be the 70,000.
That's not the 70.
That would be very unfortunate. But right now, the Ukraine has been gaining ground in areas, but they've been bragging to the world. Well, I'm not going to say the Ukraine. I'm going to say other countries.
Yeah,
have been bragging.
U.S.
Hey, look what the Ukraine did. Right? They shouldn't do that.
No,
because that is, there's a principle in the Bible that we should not provoke our children to wrath.
Right.
And if God tells us not to provoke a child to wrath, why in the world would we want to rub in the face of a nuclear powered enemy, right? That, hey, you're losing. Because essentially, the whole world knows this is NATO against Russia. They know what this is. This is not the Ukraine against Russia. This is NATO against Russia.
Is Turkey going to jump ship? Because I've heard they're thinking about leaving NATO. Are they thinking about leaving NATO and joining?
Turkey's loyalty is to Islam.
I know.
When politics are involved, right? These countries will engage in politics so long as a holy war is not in place. But a holy war is being declared.
Right.
And so you're going to see a lot of countries that will, that are essentially going to stab the Western alliance in the back. They're going to be loyal to their faith, to Islam, right? That's what they're going to be loyal to, which
Okay.
puts the U.S. in a pretty bad predicament.
So the 70,000 number you brought up twice, and I wouldn't have brought it up, but you brought up two different Thursdays. There must be a city out there somewhere that's approximately 70,000 people that you're very concerned may be neutralized or exterminated in some way with a nuclear.
Think of this, Pastor Paul. Think of this.
Okay.
If a nuclear power plant is compromised, right? They place nuclear power plants around water supplies and everything else. If it's one of those inland nuclear power plants and it melts down, right, in a country near water, those people, they can escape. They can escape. It's going to poison the water. It's going to poison the air. It's going to contaminate the lands. And based on the size of that place and how dense it is, you could do real damage. We could have that same accident happen in Texas, for example, and it would only affect probably maybe 7,000 people. But you get into a more condensed country where everything is, tightly packed. That damage could be, it could be extraordinary. And I believe they're very close to that damage because some of these countries are overwhelmed with terrorists, ISIS operatives. Some of these names have not gone away. And for example, the MI groups they've been working overtime to capture some of the mastermind terrorists overseas. And you're talking about terrorists in their own homeland who have almost succeeded in blowing up about 3 factories, large ones, 6 munitions plants, contaminating some of the raw ingredients that come in for munitions, compromising some of the calibration equipment important for some of the more sensitive equipment that they have in these countries. But I mean, they've been working at a breakneck pace to really capture these guys. There's been violence that has not been publicized. The Western world does not see it, right? But the violence is at an all-time high. There have to be at least 20 or 30 people that are dying every single day in these countries from terrorist activities. And we're not talking about the Middle East either. We're talking about in the Western world, right?
Yeah.
Per day. And this is only in one country. This isn't in 2 or 3. This is in one.
30 people
country.
A day just in one country.
About per day, they're dying like flies. It's going to get worse. It's just going to get worse. The situation in the Middle East has really opened up a Pandora's box that will not shut, right? And nobody has an answer to it.
Are we going to
Nobody
Ezekiel
does.
38, Mike? Are we going to Ezekiel 38, do you think?
Well, that is
Russia, Turkey, Iran, and a few of the others, maybe Egypt, and a bunch joining, but certainly Russia, Turkey, Iran. Do you see, are we at the brink of Ezekiel 38?
Well, yeah, for example, Russia had an influx of 250,000 troops. They have 322 contracts on standby for brand new troops. So they're having an influx of troops. Everybody has grossly underestimated Iranian troop strength, which is about it's in the millions, not the hundreds of thousands. It's in the millions, and my goodness, there are just so many things that are not seen correctly. We're at the brink of one of these situations where nobody goes back to the way it used to be, right? Which makes this election year will make or break the world, period.
Let's talk about
fast,
that.
Almost immediately is going to make or break the world.
Let's talk about the election year because, we're coming upon the election, November. We're getting ready to have a webinar called October Surprise later in this month, September 27th. We'll start it. Harris has went into the bunker in Philadelphia for 5 days to prepare. Trump's running around telling everybody what's going to happen. The nation's certainly divided, and I'm sure the polls aren't correct. We're getting lied to everywhere, but Trump's had a bullet already shot at him. Do you think another assassination could come? And where is this nation going to be on the morning of November 6th?
Well, here's what I believe, Pastor Paul. I believe today, Trump's speech, for example, when he addressed in New York, when he addressed them today, that was one of the more impressive speeches he ever did. Right? That was presidential. If Trump stays, if he continues like that, he's going to sweep the whole floor. He's going to sweep the nation with votes, right? Because what people don't like is this, they recognize the division. They do. And they're starting to get tired of it. It's been going on too long. And that causes, that can cause a person to be very highly distasteful. So if they have to, if the other side seems more peaceful with some general policies that may work, maybe they'll go for that. But they really want somebody who can resolve some of these international issues and some of the more relevant issues to the USA.
They want a leader. They really want a leader.
Right. And if he can stay, if Trump can somehow stay on message with the country and with the policies he's going to have go forward, it's a done deal. If that continues, if that were to continue, nobody would have a dispute.
Right.
When they elect who they elect.
Right.
But because Kamala Harris simply does not have the visual aspect of things in her pocket yet. In other words, she's brand new. She's too brand new. Right.
Right.
The other guy is too brand new. Trump is a recognizable one. So he's in a good position. If things continue like they are, however, without any change, everybody's going to dispute the results. And even before the election, there's going to be breakouts and protests everywhere. Before the election ever takes place.
Wow.
You already see violence. Violence is increasing rapidly, right? It's becoming, it's so bad now, they cannot help but to report we've had a mass shooting just about every day this week, haven't we? And they only televised a couple of them. So it's starting to get pretty bad. This violence, this emotional violence is going to continue to break out. It's almost like a mob mentality. If one person or two people get in a fight, all of a sudden you have a bunch of vulnerable people who will crowd around that fight to see where the fight is. They will instantly take sides, and that fight could get a lot bigger, right? So it's a mob mentality. It's almost like a contagion. When one person does it, so does somebody else, and so does somebody else. Plus, we have a lot of people in this country who they're not mentally capable of handling what's happening in the world. They're not.
I agree.
To them, their country is gone, and they will do the radical thing. There are people, for example, the Secret Service is constantly engaged in checking people out who have been potential, assassins for both candidates.
Right.
This has been happening. It's been happening too much.
Is this more? Is there been more attempts or
oh yes,
than ever before?
They're just not going to televise it, right?
They can't tell every one of them. No.
Kennedy knows it. He knows it. And which is why it's important to him to get certain reports out, but he really understands it.
Yes.
And he really has a plea for the nation, but they labeled him as a nut job. They did. They labeled him as a nut job.
They done him wrong.
Because in fact, if anybody were to sit back and listen to some of his sit down interviews, they start changing their minds. That guy is smart.
Yes.
That guy knows exactly what he's talking about, but they're so sneaky. People are so sneaky in how they do things. They have painted a picture like anybody who goes against their policies is a nut.
Yeah, or evil, or evil.
It's like children. Right now, back in the early 90s, children were generally healthy. Right? It's like I think it was 2 out of 6 kids may have been sick. Do you know now it's like 1 out of 3 kids are sick?
Really?
Like 1 out of 3. Most of them have compromised immune. Well, just about all of them have some sort of immunity issue. Most of them have allergies, right?
Right.
Nobody had any allergies back in the day, right?
No.
I mean, my goodness.
Nobody.
You have certain conditions, mentally, neurological damage in most of these kids. When you start to evaluate them they're emotionally, because when they play video games, right, all that data is doing something. Just so you know, all that data from their video games,
I
from
see.
social media, all of it's doing something. Most of these kids have an issue. They have a complex already, and when you go on the emotion scale, where it's bad, fearful, angry, disgusted, and sad, these kids are resting in that sad zone, disgusted zone, angry zone, fearful zone, which is isolated, abandoned, victimized, fragile, all these different things, powerless, ashamed. They're in those areas, which causes them to be twice as aggressive as the average individual. Now, these are our potential leaders coming up. Just so you know, but they're sick. Health costs are through the roof.
Yep.
Right?
Yes.
If a child sniffs, parents today will take that kid straight to the hospital. Oh, they sniffed, take them to the hospital. But what they don't realize is that somebody has to pay for that stuff. Our debt, there's no way they're ever going to tell what our debt is. They can't do that. So these policies we've been living under are more like floating policies, meaning they pass them, but we're on water.
Kicking the can down the road.
All that water's evaporating.
Right.
Right? It's not that the house of cards is just not going to stand up long. But a type of collapse is starting to form already, just not in the way that people expected. Right? There's certain things that just can't collapse because they're made up. But think of the social order of this country falling apart.
No.
The social order. The respect that people have for police officers is gone, isn't it?
Yep.
So something evil has attacked the authority figures in society. And in my estimation, especially like when the CIA, when they go and start a war in a different country, right, in their SOPs, the first thing you do is you cause the people to question their own authority. Right? That's what you do. That's right out of the devil's playbook.
Yes, it is.
To cause a country to fall apart. And that's what they successfully did that. And so now we operate and everybody's looking sideways at authority figures. No trust. The next step, which will come naturally, is when people assume power themselves. This is when people will begin to act prior to the elections.
Wow.
Watch and see.
Wow.
Watch and see.
Well, that's when things fall apart quick. I mean, if that takes place.
Yeah.
Mike, let me move into another direction here, and that is we had an asteroid explode over the Philippines. And I know you've been telling us that the meteors are coming. They're coming. There's no way to escape it. What is your thoughts on this? I mean, I know that was just one, but where are we in the big picture of the meteorites that are headed toward Earth, and what should the people expect to see?
Well, I think, you know what? I think that people are now in the zone. We actually have a forecast, and it does not look good. So I think that people really probably should should give it thought. What if their specific town is hit by a bunch of small rocks that were on fire, right?
Yeah.
In other words, you can't really stop those things, but what you can do is prepare to deal with fire.
Okay.
You can prepare to deal with fire, and I think that's something that every single soul on Earth needs to really start to pay attention to. How would you handle a fire? If it broke out, anywhere? How would you handle that fire? That's right. You can't stop nobody can stop what's coming. Right?
No.
But we know it's going to penetrate the atmosphere and cause a bunch of fires every time. Every wave that comes in is going to cause fires. Can you imagine a wave of rocks breaching the atmosphere lighting up the night sky where it looks like daytime for about an hour.
What?
But then you look over the horizon and all you see is a hue, a glow starting to form, or fires have begun. And then they get that fire contained or under control. And then 5 days later, it happens again. And then they get that under control. And 3 days later, it happens again.
No.
And then they get that under control. And 5 days later, it happens again. This is what we're going into. These rocks are not perfectly laid out. You know, they're not laid out like that. They'll come in bands, almost like they were whipped out by some sort of a strange oscillating pulse. And they're going to keep smacking us and smacking us, wave after wave after wave. There's just no way we can avoid that. One of the preliminary clues is going to be they're going to hear a report that something happened. And I've said this before, so people have to pay attention because I can't go too far with this, but they're going to notice reports about the International Space Station.
Yeah, let's talk.
They're going to have emergency exits from a problem will exist because they're going to have to find a way to get off all the space stations, right?
Because of the incoming debris.
ISS.
Because
That's right. If
Okay.
it comes in, they can't survive up there. They're either going to have to leave or they're going to have to come back down to the surface of the Earth. If they stay up there, they're going to die. And so they're going to have to abandon space, period. Right. This is also going to cause the Air Force to go into overdrive, and people will see odd aerial explosions take place, and they're not going to know what they are. This will be them hitting certain satellites that can cause damage to the planet. Right. Because before any meteor storm, there's an order to take out certain satellites that, if they entered the Earth's atmosphere, could destroy the atmosphere of Earth.
The satellite. So whoa. There's thousands of satellites up there, Mike. Yeah. You're saying there's certain ones that if they are falling,
they could contaminate all the atmosphere.
Because of radiation? Is it radiation?
Well, because of what they fuel them with. They have an ammo box or something about maybe 12 inches by 6 inches by 8 inches. Think of a box like that full of a liquid, right? And that liquid is in space. Fine. But if it ever breaks in the Earth's atmosphere, it will contaminate and destroy probably whatever hemisphere it falls into.
Wait a minute, Mike. That's a hemisphere. A hemisphere. I mean, you're talking about millions.
Oh, yeah. Yes, that reactive. Some of these chemicals are highly reactive. Some of them are radioactive. There are nuclear power plants on some of these devices. They didn't
nuclear. Wait, Mike. You just said nuclear.
Yes.
In
nuclear
space.
Power plants.
Nuclear power plants in space.
Yes. And that shouldn't be shocking. That was established back in the 70s, right? They actually sent a lot of things up there. In fact, they had nuclear power plants on certain jets. You know that, right?
No.
And they were testing jets, and when they put up the first set of space weapons in the 1970s. Oh, by the way, people can go and get that, but the space weapons that they launched back in the 70s are still up there and ready to use. Now, this was back in the 70s, and they have declassified that. See, when this UFO declassification stuff came out, well, so did a bunch of other things. It came out too. All that news is out there for people to go and see. So it's up there. So all their little lies are falling apart. The reason why is they say most of the people who lied are dead. So you have a lot of published items nobody cares about.
Hang on, Heidi. Mike, we just got a report coming in. Heidi just brought it to me. I just want to ask you. New York City residents are reporting that in addition to heavily National Guard presence, there are now hazmat trucks on the streets. Set up everywhere, all over. They're getting ready, man, because they know what's coming. Hazmat operations. They are preparing for something big in Manhattan Borough. Let me see. Wait. There's one more. Wait. Let me see here. It says the FBI has seized the cell phones of the New York Police Department commissioner. This comes just hours after the top aides of the Democrat mayor, Eric Adams, had their homes raided.
Yep.
Talk to us about this, Mike. This is new to me. This is what? You're confirming
Pastor,
this?
there are active threats all throughout the USA that are not publicized.
Okay.
It would just simply cause too much panic right now. So while everybody's out there arguing, or they think things are, you know, just as normal, they're not. In fact, people ought to be vigilant in all cities. All cities. They ought to be vigilant. You have ruthless people out there that are loyal to the ideologies of Hamas operating within the USA, right?
Hamas!
And they would rather die 1 billion times than to give up their fight. They're determined to set this nation on fire, period. They're determined to set this nation on fire. That is their task. And there are lots of them over here. There are people who were standard Americans who have been converted, so to speak.
Yeah.
They picked up quite a few people like that. So it's not even a thing of color anymore.
No.
When you get somebody, right, from Kentucky who lived in the hills, and they favor Izzy, right? But now they're Muslim. Something's wrong, right?
Something's seriously wrong.
You can't wear coveralls with a corn straw in your mouth, and you're loyal to ISIS. That doesn't work.
No, they love Izzy.
That's what's happened. So
they love Izzy, and then all of a sudden you love no. I mean, Izzy.
In other words, you have a lot of radicalized people out there. Right?
Okay.
But here's another incentive.
Okay.
Do you not know that they're paying people up to $11 million to gather intel from? So just imagine you're on the web or something. Somebody contacts you and say, "Hey, would you like to make some money or something?" They learn about your situation. They befriend you and they say, "Hey, we can give you $11 million today if you would just simply go place this so-and-so over there." And they give him $1 million just to test it out. And the guy goes and spends it. And he says, "Oh, my Lord, this is for real," right? But they never tell him what it's for, right? And they play the role. They can play the role like they're another Christian. They can play the role like, you know how they get how in Africa they rip people off.
Yep.
Think of it that way. But imagine somebody actually comes through and it makes a person rich just for mailing a package. Think about that, because they've gotten a few people just by mailing packages. That seems harmless, right? Wrong. If you get a package, you don't know what's in that package, right? And you from within the USA mail it somewhere else. It will bypass some of that the international optics, some of the scans that take place as they come into port, because now it's in the country. Well, this is exactly how certain chemicals are sent all over the USA. We still have a problem with pharmaceutical products within the USA getting to just about everybody in the USA, right? And they're being shipped from overseas. If we can't track a pill, you're not going to track anthrax. If you can't track, certain if you can't track narcotics being thrown into the post office, you're not going to track deadly chemicals. And if you separate those chemicals, they become inert. And of course, when you combine them, they're active again. So they have plans on top of plans on top of plans. These God bless some of these guys in the CIA and the FBI who do love the Lord. They're working overtime.
Right.
They're working overtime to hunt down every single lead. They can't even let one lead escape their view. These guys are really working overtime.
Right.
But what they're finding, Pastor Paul, it almost looks like it's a lost game. Looks like we lost. There's just the sheer amount of people involved is mind-blowing. It's never been like this before.
We're in a dangerous time. We're in a devastating time. There's so many different options of things could happen, whether it be the incoming asteroids, the Planet X. Let's talk about the sun, because today, Phoenix, 56 days this year has been 110 degrees or more. That's the hottest ever. Last year was 55. That was the hottest ever. So you have 2 years in a row. There, and oh, by the way, the Gulf of Mexico, the waters in the Gulf of Mexico are the hottest ever.
Yes, they are. Yep.
And we got fires going on all over the world. We got shortages of water. We have 5 storms right now in the Atlantic. I'm thinking and praying that they don't turn any of them to it, but 5.
As long as that high pressure stays. A few days ago, Pastor Paul, there's a high pressure system that just came right down to the USA and stopped.
Okay.
So long as it's there, no storm is going to do anything, right?
Right.
So
Right.
long as
Right.
it's there.
Right. As long as it
If it
stays there.
starts to move out, though, we're done for, right?
Right.
If
Right.
it starts to move out, we're done for. If it had moved out 3 days ago, Texas would have been underwater. I mean, underwater. Do you see how slow these storms are moving?
Yeah.
Just imagine those storms picking up
It's
moisture
just
from the
sitting
Gulf,
there.
dumping it in Texas.
In
That would have
Texas,
been
it's
about
just
7
sitting
inches
there.
per day.
Yeah,
They
it
would have
just
got
won't
7
go.
inches of rain per day.
Why won't it go away, Mike? Because of the dry air and no. There's moisture there.
If you look at the global map, we have a few high pressure systems that are disrupting the natural flow, the jet stream. They're disrupting the jet stream, almost like they're in place, and they have slowed all storms down, right? But now they're starting to move again. So if the one in the U.S., if it continues to move, because it's on the move now, it's moving east. If it continues to move, it'll force those newly formed hurricanes down. They're going to pick up even more moisture and a bit of cold air, only to come up and suck up a bunch of warm air to get fueled up and smack everything right there at the near the equator of the planet. So it depends on these high pressure systems. And by the way, high pressure comes down from the heavens down to the earth, right? Increasing pressure on the ground. That's why they call it a high pressure system. That's extremely dry air up there in space. I mean, it's super dry. Low pressure comes from the ground up. And so that normally sucks moisture out of everything and throws it right in the air. These high pressure systems are blessings in a lot of cases. In this case, though, it's starting to speed up and move away. And if it does it too fast, Texas or Arkansas, Florida, all those southern places are going to get drenched a little too much because it's picking up speed.
Arkansas?
Yeah, and those newly formed storms will fully form. If this high pressure system is not there to keep them in check, we're going to be in trouble.
Look at those five, Mike.
Yeah, we're going to get smacked.
I mean, you got right there. If you can see it there, along the Texas, Louisiana coast. That's one, and it won't seem to. It doesn't. It's been there a week. It won't go away. Yeah. You got the one that's going to hit Yucatan Peninsula. Yeah. It's going to go into the Gulf of Mexico. I don't know what it will do. You got the one that's out there off the coast of North Carolina. I think we're going to be okay with that one. You got the one way out there off the coast of Africa. We don't know what that's going to do. But then the one that's right there in the middle worries me if it's going to go toward Florida. Well,
if that high pressure system the high pressure system is, as it moves east, if it can stay on its lateral track, it will keep that storm below Florida, right?
Okay.
If it stays, but if that high pressure system veers north, that storm is gonna overwhelm the jet stream forces and then begin to alter the upper atmosphere currents, and it's going right into Florida, into the Gulf, where that hot water is, to pick up a lot of energy, and it will end up drenching the entirety of the parts of the Midwest, East Coast, Texas, all the way up to Maine again. So we'll have a repeat of this last storm that came with a bit more intensity.
And Ernesto.
So people ought to get ready to deal with some water, because we have at least 6 more storms, Pastor, forming as we speak.
Wait!
Or that could potentially form.
Wait a minute. You're talking 6 more besides these 5?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah.
We can't dodge them all, Mike. We can't dodge them all.
No, we cannot.
Okay. So, all right. So tonight we've talked about Middle East is in danger. Europe, because of nuclear potential meltdown, is in danger. We have asteroids, meteorites, coming that are exploding over the Philippines, and we know there's a lot more coming. We're in danger. We have, I didn't even talk to you tonight about West Nile virus, EEE, cholera, anthrax, bird flu, polio, cholera. I mean, Mike, is it over exaggerating here, or do we really have a problem with plagues?
We have a lot of people with compromised immune systems, right? In fact, it's not their fault. It's just antibiotics. It's the way culture has been driven into this.
Right.
So you have a lot of these viruses and certain bacteria and fungi that people just have no immunity to, because they have compromised immune systems. Many people don't know it yet, but they have autoimmune problems in their system.
Really?
And it's not their fault. It's just the way that it's all this, hyper processed foods that people are eating. To be honest with you, is what's doing it. All those preservatives and everything else. So just like science will make something and say, hey, this is great for everybody. And then 10 years later, they'll say, ooh, if you took this, might want to call that lawyer because you're probably going to get, cancer or something. Just like they did milk, right? They said, drink a lot of milk. Then they said, don't drink milk. It causes cancer.
They said, eat eggs.
That report said, drink milk again.
And then they said, eat eggs. And they said, no, it's not good for you. And then they said, no, you need the protein.
Correct. Right.
Okay.
Which is why, well, now you know why I'm doing what I'm doing, because I have to test out to see what actually works versus what somebody says is working.
So,
by the way, I can tell you what that is.
What are you doing?
Want to know what that is?
Yeah.
Let me tell you what I'm drinking.
Okay, tell me.
Vanilla Ensure.
Okay, vanilla Ensure. I know what that is.
Yeah.
Are you so that's the one with you drinking a lot of that?
The one with the high protein, 350 calories per bottle, right?
Okay.
And this I'm going into month 9. I've had a total of 2 meals in 9 months.
No.
The rest has been Ensure.
No.
Yeah.
You've been just drinking Ensure at 350.
That's it.
Because you're getting full protein there.
That's it.
Mike, you're losing a lot of weight. You've lost weight.
It is. Well,
you didn't have a lot to lose.
I did lose some fat. Right.
Yeah.
I do lose some fat. I lost a little bit of weight, but it's not.
You already in good shape.
I'm good. I'm good to go. But it has. Here's the deal, though. Here's the deal.
Okay.
And this may sound wacky, but you have a lot of people out there in the world who all they have access to is stuff that comes off the shelf. Right.
Right.
There will come a time when people are not going to have a selection of what they want to get, and so what already exists out there that you don't have to refrigerate, that can be nutritious and can actually, keep a person going. Well, I put Ensure to the test. So far, so good. All my systems are good. I have the cholesterol of a baby. All my nutritional levels are up there. They're good to go. And so far, so good. So far, so good.
So for 9 months, you have been drinking vanilla Ensure, except for 2 meals in 9 months.
Yep. Yeah.
And you've maintained your weight pretty well. You're pretty well no fat left. You're pretty well solid muscle and in good health. Your cholesterol's good. Your heart feels great. Your sugar, how's your sugar? It's good?
No, it's great. Yeah, it's great. In fact, the cholesterol and the sugar and that stuff, the doc from the blood test is that of an 18-year-old. So it's not bad.
You're going to live forever, Mike. I mean,
I hope not.
I don't know how old you are.
Oh my Lord!
No, but I know. I don't know how old you are, but I know you were in Vietnam, so you aren't a young chicken anymore. So you're in good health. You're in good shape. You may be here when the rapture happens. I mean, why not? I mean, right? I mean, you might just be here. Maybe you're going to fight the beast.
Well, Pastor, I'll go as long as the Lord wants me. That's in His hands. I don't even think about it. He'll give me. He knows when to give me. I trust Him.
Okay, so if I went if I went on vanilla Ensure for the next 6 months, I'd probably lose some of this fat that I've been trying to get rid of. I have got rid of 14 pounds. Okay, happy about that, but I need to lose it.
It's got protein. It's got those certain nutritional requirements. I still take a multivite every single day.
Okay, that's good.
Every single day, but yeah, so far so good. I want to know what works, because what if somebody else really needs it? For example,
how many calories are you getting a day at 350 shakes?
Oh, well, 350 per drink, right?
Yeah, so how many you drink?
You can do that as you go throughout the day or whatever you can do.
Right.
You can sip on something all day long if you want to. But the point is something that you can actually consume without any fear of, is this too much, too little, whatever the case is.
It's not going to hurt you.
It's but I normally, because I eat by demand. I don't eat when I'm hungry. I only eat when I have to refuel this body to keep going. I know it sounds weird, but that's just the way I am.
How many calories? I mean, okay, so you got to be drinking like
sometimes
10 of these.
Well, sometimes a lot, sometimes not a lot. Sometimes I do not require. It's a couple of days I just drank about maybe 3. That was it. because I wasn't doing too much.
Okay.
It
Okay.
really
I see.
depends on what I'm doing.
I see.
Right?
I see.
Because if I'm doing a lot, oh my goodness,
You'll
I can
drink about
just,
10 of those, maybe 12,
but
right?
when I'm not doing anything,
You'll cut it
satisfied.
down.
The
Okay.
biggest problem a person would have is their own cravings, their own memory of certain other
Right.
foods.
That's Paul
Right?
Begley.
But in about 3 months, that goes away.
I believe
That
that
goes away.
because I noticed that when I would go without any sweets for 30 days, I don't want any more. I know that. It's certain foods. If you just say, you know what, I'm not going to eat that anymore. The bag of chips.
Yeah.
You don't go, it goes away. After 30 days, you don't, for some reason, you just don't care anymore. You don't even want to hear about it. You don't want to smell it. You don't want to see it.
No, you're good to go.
But that's
You're
a
good to go.
discipline you have to do.
You know what's going to happen?
What's that?
Because you know what's going to happen? People are not going to have the availability of foods. This time is coming.
Wow.
And people are not, they're not going to be
You
able to
keep
go out there
saying
and get
that.
what they want. And it's really a shock, Pastor, of all things a person could prepare for. The one thing they never think of is their taste palette, right?
No, you're right.
I'm telling everybody from experience, when you cannot get the food you crave, it can alter your attitude. It can really mess with your
Right.
mind.
You got to
It can
shift
make
the
you feel
mind.
hopeless and everything else. And so why not take in this time of peace, right? Get
Right.
control of it now, right? That's the best thing to do.
You keep saying
get
that there's
control of it now.
that and then we're already seeing it now that some of our mainstream labeled, our main foods that we were used to eating are just going to disappear off the shelves.
Yeah.
It's going to get limited supply choices. So you're saying, let's get ahead of this because, Paul, and to everybody listening, it's coming soon where your choices are going to be very limited. So you better start getting yourself used to eating totally different, limited supplies, at least choices, because it's going to change. Is that true?
Yeah, they can start that by cutting back on seasoning, right? They don't have to season their food as much.
Oh,
And that way they'll get used to some of the more, whatever was bland before will be tasteful. If you do that gradually, it's not a big problem. But if you do it all at one time, it can be devastating. It can really add to a person's depression. I've seen this of tough guys. I've seen a person cry over a Twinkie.
I'm starting to cry.
Guy.
I'm
Yes,
past the
'cause he
Twinkies.
didn't
I'm
have a
past the
Twinkie.
Twinkies. But you know, I like a
people
ribeye
dream.
steak. Okay,
Well,
last
that's
night.
why I've seen people dream about it and everything else,
Yeah.
right? And it really messes with them when they can't. If you go out in the field for a year and you've had nothing but MREs, right? That can really do
I
something.
can't
to
do
you.
that, Mike.
So, but that time is coming where people will not be able to get.
So
what they
you're
need.
saying we
Plus,
need to discipline ourselves. We need to really
Yes, yeah.
start disciplining
Oh, yeah.
ourselves. Now, some
Yes.
people out there, Mike, has sugar diabetes. They have different situations. They got to watch. We're not telling people to just like throw caution to the wind. They got
don't do that. Don't do that.
Listen to your doctor, but
Yeah.
but gradually start shifting what you're eating, but still
That's
listen to your doctor. Is that right?
Ask your doctor what can you do to cut back your taste palette, so you won't, if you can't get what you want, you can still survive pretty good.
There you go.
Also, Pastor Walt, did you know every 3 days your body repairs itself,
No.
and every 7 days your body rests?
Okay.
Yeah. Every 7 days, but every
okay.
3 days it tries to gather up all the materials you've consumed to repair itself every 3 days.
So you need to feed it good
3
because then you can help yourself. If you're feeding it junk.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. All right,
People
Mike.
should notice. People should have noticed that when they have an injury or something like that, 3 days is that magic number, right? After the third day of an injury, normally the pain goes away,
Yeah.
or something shifts big time. That goes with a toothache, broken bones, all this different. That
coma.
happens.
You could get 3 days, 3 weeks, 3 months, right?
Yeah.
There's a process here of healing. All right, Mike. Let me ask you. Okay, so this has been a great, very informative broadcast. In the next, by this time next week, what do you think we're going to be? And look, the president in 2 weeks is going to be sentenced. Mike, is he going to be sentenced? Is he going to be given? First of all, is he going to be given prison time? And number two, if so, are they going to put him in jail before the election?
You know what? I sincerely hope that people are praying. I do. I hope that people pray, and I hope that people who have, listen, as a president, there's not one innocent president, just so everybody knows that.
Right.
Okay. And all presidents have killed people. How
Right.
about that?
Yes, they have.
Also, all people have to think of. They have killed people.
They all have.
And illegally killed people, you could say.
That's tough.
When it comes to Trump and those documents, the reasoning behind the documents has not been, people don't understand that yet, but all the rest of the guys had documents too, is one of the arguments Trump is making. I hope that people pray, because there are forces out there that if anybody desires to alter the main plan just a little bit, they're going to get thrown under the bus big time. And they don't want, Trump is truly an outsider.
Yeah.
If you can't tell that Trump is an outsider, and he's and what I mean outsider is that he does not agree with some of what he knows, right? Elon Musk is the same way. He's somewhat of an outsider,
right?
They're insiders as far as they know how business works and things of that nature. But when it comes to agendas,
they seem to be outsiders.
They have a line that they draw. And if people understood what leadership was, I do believe they would pray that no dark forces could overcome any human being. Because you're really looking at something that's quite dark. But you know what, unfortunately, based on the people, the outcome of these elections, people are going to get exactly what they asked for, number one. So if you have the majority of people who are corrupted, they won't corrupt things, you're going to get something corrupted. And they're not going to like it. The sad part is they're going to find out too late that they were wrong, right?
Yep.
They're going to find out too late that they needed a person who really, was just like they were, not some automaton. Now, I'm not saying that everybody's a monster up there or anything, but when you're dealing with, for me, it's about faith. If a person is against the Father, now I don't care what the world says, they can separate church and state. I can never do that, because without the church, we'd be in a horrible state of being, wouldn't we? There is no state without the church. And at least you have President Trump, who has a conscience. That's obvious. You can't have a conscience if you're evil. You cannot have a conscience. No,
they don't, and they don't. They just keep lying and doing and whatever.
That's the biggest thing, because anybody with a conscience, they're going to change. Nobody's born perfect. We change over the course of a process. But what America's going through right now, the outcome will affect the entire world.
I agree.
And it's going to make or break everything, but it's going to start with us. And whoever is not, people are not taking this seriously. If they sit this one out, it can be something that they contributed to that will certainly harm everything in their future and their children's future and everything connected to them. So, I hope that people are praying. I know that if God's people pray, I know this, if they were to pray in a unified voice, then whatever they prayed, that would take place. I already know that. But here's the task. Can the people who believe unify themselves in prayer with one heart, with one mind, with one soul, and agree on a prayer, right, for the outcome of this election, for the outcome of the people involved, and for the direction this country would go in? And the right thing will be done by the Lord with that answer. And to pray for President Trump and these persecutors and the other, I think that world is hidden so much that people, they just can't see what's on the other side. If they knew what was on the other side, they'd have no hesitation in certain things they do. I personally, even if I hated all of the candidates, I still see it as quite extreme to go after one and leave the other one alone. Why favor one over the other, right? And I know that the rainbows are pushing the one side. I know that for a fact.
Right.
Which is wrong. That's just wrong.
Just wrong.
That's wrong. But it's happening, right?
Yep.
And so I hope that God's people pray, because whatever is in, whatever they pray, the Lord will You'll hear them.
If they pray, God will
hear that
definitely show
collective.
you. He'll show
He will
you
hear it.
what to do
That's
if you
right.
pray and ask him.
That's right.
He'll show you.
That's right. Because that's a very delicate, it's a very delicate thing. And I was hoping the stone step thing was done for, because I don't want to see the next part. I don't want to.
Do you
I don't
think
want
it's
to see
possible?
that, because that happens to
Why is the
us.
National Guard?
That happens to
Why
us.
is the National Guard setting up shop in Manhattan, Mike? And
you're going to see a lot more. You're going to see. You know what? If it, you know, that dream, as I told it to you, Pastor Paul, if it comes out just like that, I'm going to just fall out the chair.
I know you will.
Now, but I'm hoping. Listen, because 20 million people died instantly.
That's the part. Okay, so you saw the stone steps.
Instantly.
Now, we've already seen Trump being led down steps by men in Secret Service, put into an SUV, everything you said. But if you see a stone steps where he's being led down out of a courtroom and put into an SUV to be taken to jail, the next thing you saw was 20 million dead people.
Died instantly, right here in America.
So in the next 2 weeks, Mike, 2 weeks from today, you realize 2 weeks from today.
Goodness.
See, what is today? The 5th? Okay, so that's 2 weeks from today will be the 19th. We will know what happened. And on the 19th, we don't know where we'll be at that moment. We just don't know what's going to happen. That would
not be good. You know, it was enough with the person and the confident. It was enough people. It was enough. Everything changed at that point, right? And that's, you know, in by itself. So with this on top of it, plus those 20 million died from these missiles came down.
What?
And killed those people.
Missiles? That's what did it. Here in America. Here in America?
Yeah. Yes. Here in America. Which is that, you know, that's so improbable.
No, but it's very possible.
The whole thing was improbable back in what year was that? 2000 and Lord, that was a while ago.
Well, at the time you had the dream, there was no possibility that did make sense, right?
That was totally improbable. But boy, everything is just that 20 million is not good, because everything has been happening. My goodness, it won't go away. It's worse than these mosquitoes, isn't it?
Yeah, it's worse than the mosquitoes and the West Nile virus and the EEE and the. I'm so tired.
They're spraying states now, guys.
Huh?
A lot of people are going to see them spray. They're spraying cities. They're spraying counties. They're spraying towns. They're spraying everything. Now, I know people, I'm saying this because I know that there are going to be people that come out on the internet saying, hey, they're spraying some dangerous, you know, stuff here, and then scare people. But they're spraying stuff. I would just tell people this. In the Bible, it states, any evil thing that's meant to poison you will have no effect upon you if you belong to the living God. And that is true. I'm a living witness of that. All this ill will that goes around, if you belong to the living God through Christ, nothing is going to impede your steps as you walk in righteousness. I know that's real too. I've stepped in unrighteousness and righteousness. And I can tell you right now, nothing has power to knock you off the path of righteousness, and everything is in power to beat you up in unrighteousness. So I can tell you that. But they're spraying. And I know that is going to inflame everything on the internet. So now people know that they're going to be spraying everything because of these mosquitoes.
Oh, I see. There's only 3 people sick with West Nile virus. One of them, Fauci. What's the odds of that? Okay, that's the first thing. And you're saying there's very few little cases, and not discounting those cases, though they just affect people. But you just don't go wildly spraying over 3 people sick, Mike.
Right, they're spraying. They've already begun in certain places. They're going to be spraying everything. Now the triple E virus, right?
Yeah.
Don't trust the numbers.
I don't.
Don't trust the numbers.
You think they're worse? Okay.
In my opinion, the most dangerous thing out there is the fungus that came from trees, which a human being contracted. I think everybody ought to know that. That's devastating. That's a real plague. That's one of those irreversible things right there. That's painful, Pastor Paul. You know that's painful. That fungus is painful. It's like having your bones. I think it was like having your bones broken all day long or something like that. So that's not a good thing to have fungus on you, to turn you into, it embeds
No,
itself in
that's
your
not good
system.
at all.
It hardens your cellular walls, and it starts to deform certain things within the human body. It is, but it's no fungus is supposed to grow in a human being, nor become adapted to a human being that was, that only thrives on a tree. That's some, that's some science fiction stuff. But there was a show, somebody told me this and I ignored it. Somebody on the job told me, they said, "Hey, did you check that movie out?" And I said, they know I don't watch movies. But it was a movie based off a video game where a fungus jumped to humanity and took out humanity, right? Altered humanity. And The Last of Us or something like that. And I told him no. Well, after the fact, when I learned about that report, I remembered what he said, and I kind of looked at that movie, and they had critters in there that where this stuff had got into the brains of people, and kind of altered them big time. But yeah, that movie comes out, and then it actually happens in real life.
That
Do
happens a
you think that's
lot, Mike.
coincidence? Do you think
No,
that's coincidence?
no.
So you know but it's still spreading. There are more cases. There are more cases. Now, I'm going to call that one the torment plague, because everybody who's some of the feedback from that is these people are tormented that have that. I mean, tormented, and there's no pain relief for them because that fungus, it disrupts your nervous system in a way that nothing will cause your dopamine in the system to come out. So it shuts down your ability to cope with pain, just totally shuts it down. That's a real one. And that flesh-eating fungus that they dug out the ice, that event cost the guy to lose his leg in less than 2 hours.
Out of the ice. Are you talking about Antarctica or Arctica, or which one?
Well, there was another one in Antarctica, right?
Okay.
And no, this one was in Alaska, and they were digging things out, some of the newly melted ice. And when he came back, he'd only been there 2 hours. He came back, this stuff looked like, first he said it was a 1-inch circle, but it hurt. Then it about a what do you say, 15 minutes later, it was over his whole leg. He ended up going to the hospital, and he lost his leg that quick.
From a virus.
From an ancient, they said it was a 20,000-year-old bacteria.
Hid in the ice, preserved in the ice.
And it's unthawed now.
So are you worried about the permafrost melting, Mike?
Yes, because all that ice has gone into the oceans. The fish swim in that water, right?
Oh.
When you have a virus that's been absent for so long and life has evolved around it, nothing has an immunity to the virus, and the bacteria is going to have a field day. It takes, nature a while to reach a point of where efficacy and that type thing can take place. So, yeah, it's too much of that stuff happening. Too much happening, and they know they're hundreds of thousands of specimens, different types of bacteria and viruses that are in that ice.
Is that why we have? Is that partly why we have labs up in the north and up in down in the south in Antarctica or in Arctic? Are those labs just? They're not just there to study the viruses in the ice. I'm sure they're doing a whole lot more, but
yeah, but they do take ice core samples. They look at everything, because if they're not equipped to handle some of the stuff they found, there are civilization enders that they have found. Plus, let's go ahead and face it, they weaponize what they find.
Wow,
right?
There you go.
And one of the biggest particle weapons that we have is also up there. So, because we have to be protected from whatever they're going to protect us from.
Mike, this has been an incredible, informative evening. You've given me and our whole audience a lot to think about, to go research, to think through. Jesus is coming. Okay, that's the bottom line. People better get right with God. We don't know when he's coming, but boy, things you see things getting really tough. You see things really going to accelerate, Mike.
Oh yeah, yes, sir, I do.
So, folks, you don't want to mess around. You want to get right with God. You don't want to wait and sit back and wait and see how it's all going to work out. You want to get on the winning side. That's what Mike's saying. Time
Amen.
is now. So,
Amen.
Mike, thank you for coming on tonight. It was a powerful, powerful, powerful information, and I appreciate you sharing with us so that we would know. And we got this webinar coming up, wow, October surprise, and I know your presentation will be amazing as always. You got anything, you see anything in that presentation that's pretty important?
All of it. The whole
I guess that was too easy. Everything you're going to bring up is pretty important. All right. Well, we'll be recording that. We'll be filming you soon on that, and we'll be ready to go. September 27th. You don't want to miss it. It will be powerful. Mike, thank you so much for being here tonight. Once again, I really appreciate your ministry of helping us to understand things in this end times. Truly.
Well, thank you, Pastor Paul. It's always an honor. God bless you, brother.
Amen, brother. The honor is totally mine. God bless you. Thank you for being here tonight. God bless.
All right.